So Cardi B has decided to grace the world with a brand new album, her first studio record. After the huge success of the single Bodak Yellow, we finally got a full body of work from the Brooklyn Queen. Does that even sound right, or did it sound like I was forcing that? I don't even know. It's Shawn C, and we're here today to talk a little bit about this Cardi B record, Invasion of Privacy. Cardi B is a Bronx, New York rapper whose rise to fame is very commendable but very unorthodox. Initially, I believe she received some attention by talking about her career as a stripper, all the problems, all the hardships, all the pet peeves that come along with being a stripper, and talking about it in a kind of relatable, not so try-hard way. She was very self-deprecating, so it made her a likable character. Somewhere in the midst of all this, she managed to get a spot on the VH1 TV series Love and Hip Hop. In between this, she managed to drop some mixtapes here and there, and not long after, sometime in early 2017, she managed to sign a record deal with Atlantic. So after giving this project a couple listens and sitting with it for a little bit, how do I feel? I gotta say, I'm feeling better about it than I initially did when I first came into Cardi B's music, because honestly, Cardi B to me has struck me as the female version of every other male rapper in the industry. You got a guy who's rapping about his money and his hoes. Cardi B pretty much takes that narrative or that script and reverses it to be a female version of it. Her coming across that way to me through majority of her music made me a little bit iffy going into this new project, because I didn't know if she was gonna hit me with 13 more songs of the same thing. To Cardi B's credit, although she does come across at some points like the female version of every other male rapper out there, the thing that makes her a little bit more enjoyable to listen to is, like I said, her self-deprecation, which makes her a much more listenable, much more enjoyable, much more likable artist than an artist like Nicki Minaj, who she is constantly compared to. And I get that the reason between this is because they're both from New York, they're both big female artists, they both have a large following, but you have one artist such as Nicki Minaj who actually tries to make really good music, calls herself the best female artist, the queen of New York, she's the best in the game, versus another female artist who really didn't have intentions on being the best rapper, who just wanted to make a way for herself, and we got to see her process as she was coming from the bottom. In this record, she talks about being in the slums. In this record, she talks about being in that negative place, her insecurities, making herself vulnerable. You have an artist who's kind of obsessed with her standing, her place in hip-hop, versus Cardi B, who really doesn't seem to consider it at all. I think one of the things that keeps Cardi B so interesting is the fact that she's so realistic with her image. You're not going to see that many rappers, especially female artists, who unfortunately know they have a lot to prove in the rap game, talking about the negative portion of themselves and being vulnerable enough to display that on their records. That vulnerability kind of makes her a bit of an underdog, which many people want to root for. So when you hear her brag on the same record, it doesn't really come across as a brag, it just comes across like, you deserve this, because you're hearing her talk about her struggle while at the same time overcoming them and becoming a better version of herself. I don't know if Cardi B is like aware of this before she started making her records, but it's a known fact that many rappers don't want that vulnerability in their music. They want to be seen as the badass from the start, which makes a lot of their music interchangeable, because we can't root for anybody that thinks that they never had to come from anything. So after hearing all this, does that mean majority of what she's talking about on this project is defendable? Kinda. This album is 13 tracks long, meaning that Cardi B has trimmed most of the fat, ends up being a little over 40 minutes, and most of the tracks are listenable. Get Up 10 is kind of like this Meek Mill inspired intro where she's talking about her struggle, but then we get the success story right after. Some other of my favorite tracks on this album range from the feature with SZA on I Do to the awesome track with Chance the Rapper called Best Life. I think Chance the Rapper gives the most incredible verse he's given in a while. So much energy, so much passion, so much enjoyability, and like happiness, and like you can feel like he's striving to live his best life. I really like the auto-tune over SZA's voice on I Do. It's so weird to hear an artist that doesn't need to use auto-tune and it sound good over their voice. Bodak Yellow, of course, being a strategic plan to be released on this album, which I don't mind at all, really. I liked Bodak Yellow last year, still enjoy it, and what might possibly be the most addicting hook I think Cardi B has ever created. Guap, guap, get some chicken chicken, guap, get some bread. Not only is it a risk for Cardi B to put on this record, but she's making music to some extent to appeal to her demographic, unlike an artist like, let's say, a Nicki Minaj who's making music to impress her demographic. There still are some questionable features on this project though. I feel like every track Cardi B features another artist with, she just narrowly fits into their world. Like the Kehlani track, in my opinion, easily could have been a cut off of her Sweet Sexy Savage tape that came out in the earlier part of 2017 last year. The Migos track on here could have easily fit into Culture too. There's only so many times you can say drip drip before I'm just like, yo, what are you talking about, fam? Bartier Cardi literally sounds like 21 Savage and Cardi B had a competition to see who could keep the same boring flow for the longest period of time. The flow off Moneybag just comes off like a wannabe Bodak Yellow remix. The hook on She Bad with YG is god awful, and I would say the R&B tracks or the slower songs where Cardi B's talking about her relationship would be appealing, but I don't find them to be because they're really not that convicting and they don't really cut that deep. Which leads me to my next question about this album. Whose privacy are we really invading? Most of the information that Cardi B is discussing on this album is information that most of the public already knew about, so whose privacy are we invading? I could see if she was making some grand statement, going really deep, really introspective, talking about situations that she really hadn't discussed before, but since she built her social media platform off being self-deprecating, not taking herself so seriously, going through the rap game, kind of discussing similar things, talking about her teeth being messed up, fixing them, all this other stuff, it makes sense for me to be like, when I'm going into this record, I really know most of what you've talked about. I'm not getting that much new information. What unique information or perspective are you giving me on this album that will require you to think that I'm invading anyone's privacy? That being said, most of these tracks work because of Cardi B's really attractive personality. She's got a lot of presence on these tracks. She's got a lot of charm on these tracks. And reasons why I say Bickenhead might be one of the best tracks on this project is because it's so engaging. Like, you're telling your female audience to pop that pussy everywhere. When you're engaging with your audience on a hit song, you got a banger. You got a song that's gonna top the charts, no matter what. Although I was pleasantly surprised by a good portion of what was on this album, I can't get away from how repetitive and how redundant a lot of what she says tends to be. Although charismatic, I can't really say it's something that will hold me and keep me coming back for album upon album upon album. Like, I don't see her making an album like this for her next project. And this lack of versatility that Cardi B has me worried about what she's gonna talk about for her next project. Because people seem to think that this album was released as a ode to Cardi B, as if this were supposed to be some strong message to her fan base. This album came out for business purposes, and it makes sense. It's a good business move. It makes sense for Cardi B. I'm glad that she's keeping her name out there. I'm glad that she's making more music. I'm glad that her singles are popping. But this album was a business move, not an artistic one. Can't have a single like Bodak Yellow take over the charts for a good portion of 2017, have another single with 21 Savage called Bartier Cardi, have another single with Migos and Nicki Minaj called Motorsport, where you have a pretty good verse, and not come out with an album a few months later. See, majority of these tracks aren't very conceptual. Majority of them have a theme of trying to be hits, but you see me worry about her versatility because what shows up on this album I feel is most of what Cardi B is capable of. Not that great of a singer, pretty mediocre rapper lyrically, even though she does have the charisma and the energy to carry a track by herself. This album doesn't really take any risks in terms of Cardi B and what she's capable of artistically. This ain't the stripper version of All Eyes on Me, but it's a fun Cardi B explanation and Cardi B success story that most people can listen to, not take so seriously, and enjoy for what it is. That being said, it shows most of her shortcomings and what she's actually capable of, because most of her catalog, I believe, would show up on this record. Most of her skill set. I do feel like this helps out Cardi B as a business and Cardi B as a brand. I don't think it does that much for Cardi B as an artist. It kind of keeps her in the same space, in the same realm, doesn't really push her further artistically, but definitely keeps her name in a lot of people's mouths. And I guess if that's what this album was trying to go for, then thumbs up. Cardi B, Invasion of Privacy. That's how I'm feeling on it. It's been Shawn C. Thank you for watching. Let me know how you felt about this album in the comment section down below. I'm really curious to find out. Enjoyed this more than I thought I would. I really did. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.